Hello, my name is Leah. I'm the author of the modules you're about to complete based on Epic Games' Unreal Engine. This is their 4th edition of their game engine development kit and is a powerful creation tool. I've been using this engine for about 8 years now and have created a large number of projects, so I will be leading you through the process of learning this engine. It's not necessary to follow along with this video and it's meant more of a visual guide for the tools and techniques we're going to use, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is open up Unreal Engine. So you just need to open up the launcher and click this big yellow button here that says Launch. So when it loads up, you will see a screen pop up like this. So what we're going to want to do is click on New Project here, and you can see blank is already selected. That's the one we're going to use. You can also set where you want to save your project here and name your project. And then when you're ready to go, just click Create Project. Now you can see that it has loaded with a few assets here. I would suggest going to File, New Level, and selecting Empty Level here. This is really good practice when you're working on brand new projects and makes it a lot more controllable. So starting over here, the first thing we have is the World Outliner. Now, this is just simply a list of everything that you may have in your scene, and this just saves a lot of time if you're not sure where you put something, or you can't find something, or you can't select something because it's covered with other stuff. You can find it here and select it here. Below that, we have the Details menu, and this is a kind of like a case-by-case menu. So when you've selected, say, an actor or an asset, you will see a list of properties and settings that you can change based on what you have selected here. So we'll get back to that in a little bit. Alright, so down here you have your content browser. This is kind of like a library where you will find all of the things that you add to your level, import into your level. You can also find the content that comes with the engine. So if you come down here to View Options and make sure that Show Engine Content is clicked, you can go over here to choose a path, and you'll see that you can select engine content. Another handy tool is the Sources panel, which is just a much faster and more convenient way to navigate through your folders. You can also create your own folders, and I would suggest anything that you create goes under the content folder. So if you want to add your own folder there, just go here. I'll add it and you can name it. That's the best place to put it. So up here, you kind of have a multi-tool. And anybody who's ever developed in a 3D environment will kind of be familiar with what this is. The first one is Place. This is a tool bag of static meshes, geometry. So you get your cameras from Cinematic, you'll get lights, visual effects that have to do with like fog, reflection, stuff like that. Volumes are very important in game development. We'll be using Place a lot in our modules, and it's kind of a case-by-case basis. The three tools that you see in the middle here aren't very important and don't really have anything to do with the modules that we're going to go through. There are tutorials in the engine based off of them, and you can certainly go after them if you want to. I'm going to show you the landscape tool because it's great for students who are managing to get ahead and are becoming bored. It's also a good extracurricular part of this module. So you go to landscape, just hit create, and if you go to the sculpt tool, there's just a whole bunch of tools that students can use to basically play in a sandbox. And it's really good, it's really intuitive, and it's really easy to pick up. So it's great for keeping students busy. Now, the last thing that we will go into more depth later on is the geometry editing mode. This is your viewport. So whenever I say viewport, I am talking about this. And viewport is basically just what you're seeing in your level. Inside of this window, we have a few things that are fairly important. Up here you have some manipulation tools. So this will allow you to move objects or translate as it says. This will allow you to rotate objects, and this will allow you to scale objects. We'll show you what that looks like later in a demonstration. This is your snapping. So you can turn the grid off or on, and then you can set your snap size here. Same thing with rotating. Same thing with scaling. This is kind of not important, but there is a tip and trick to do that. If you're in your viewport, you press WSAD to move around, and you can see it's like really fast. If you scroll down, you start to slow down. And then if you scroll up, you can move faster. So that's just a very good tip to use when you're working in this engine. And then the last thing that we're going to be looking at, and we will definitely be using, is this button. So this allows you to see your orthographic views, and orthographic views are just flat planes. So you can see here that we've got your X plane, you've got your Y plane, and you've got your Z. So this will be height, so you're looking from the top down. This will be looking from the left, as you can see here. So this is a side view, and this will be looking from the front. So this is the front view of your object. And if you're having trouble with them, you can maximize, minimize, and then go back to your viewport here. So that'll be important later. Kind of the last things that you are going to find important. Before you build your level, you need to save it. And the best practice is to go save all. The way that this engine works is your level is kind of separate from your project. So when you're adding your content into your level, it's saving it somewhere else. Always click save all when you're working with your project. And when you've saved, before you can even play your game, you need to build it. So I'm just going to show you what the building process looks like, because it's kind of confusing if you've never gone through it before. There is a icon that's going to pop up in your item tray that is called Swarm, and that's Unreal's building tool. So simply just click this button. Most likely we'll see this pop up, just allow access. So you can see some things are popping up here, and it has been completed. When you actually have things in your level, because I don't, it'll take a lot longer, and there will usually be a pop-up at the end of it. You can just ignore it. Just press OK, cancel, whatever pops up. Now we're going to set up the project for the lesson that we're going to be doing. So the first thing that we need is something to build on, a ground, if you will. So I'm going to grab the plane and drag it into the scene. So this is where the manipulator comes in. A neat little trick is if you press spacebar, you can actually scroll through each of the different types of manipulator. So the one we're going to want to use is scale. So if you go into the center where every single end of this is highlighted in yellow, you're going to click and drag and just keep dragging until it looks like the plane really goes on forever. You want to make it really big. That's good there. Alright, so the next thing we're going to want is the sky. So if you come down here and click on engine content and then type sky into the search box, you'll see BP sky sphere. You just want to click and drag that into your scene. Now I noticed here that it is close to sunset, and I don't like that. So I'm going to change it. If you remember your details panel here, over here we have sun height, and I'm just going to drag that up until it looks like it's daytime. That's good. So once you've dragged your sky in and you have it set up, if you go onto your orthographic views, it's not happening on mine, probably because I've already fixed it a few times, but you'll notice that you can see that entire sphere. So what you're going to want to do is the same thing you did with the plane. You're going to want to select it, go to your scale tool, and keep expanding it until it's ridiculously big. And that will get rid of it in your orthographic views and make it so that you can work easily inside of them. So the last thing is we do not have a light in this level. So what we're going to want to do is you can go to lights, and you're going to want a directional light. So you can click and drag that into your scene like you did everything else. Or another neat trick is just to right click, go to place actor, and directional light under lights here. This one's based on the sun. If it was a point light, you would have to have it closer to the ground so that it actually shows, but this is like the sun, so you can put that like way out of the way so it doesn't interrupt your building. So that's the basic setup that you need to start any project. You can also see that lighting needs to be rebuilt is here, and this is that case where if I press build. So this is what usually pops up at the end of a build. Once everything has been completed, this is kind of what pops up, and you can just close it.